Ystoria Mongalorum is a report compiled by Giovanni da Pian of his trip to the Mongol Empire. Written in the 1240s, it is the oldest European account of the Mongols. Carpine was the first European to try to chronicle Mongol history. Background: Carpine recorded the information he collected in a work variously entitled in the manuscripts Ystoria Mongalorum quos nos Tartar Archipelagus, and Liber Tartarorum, or Liber Tartarorum. This treatise has 9 chapters. The first 8 describe the Tartars' country, climate, manners, religion, character, history, policy, and tactics, and on the best way to oppose them. The 9th chapter describes regions he passed through. The title is significant, as it emphasizes that the Mongols were not identical to the Tartars. In fact, the author points out that Mongols were quite offended by such a label. They vanquished Tartars in several campaigns around 1206, after which the Tartars ceased to exist as an independent ethnic group. The report gives a narrative of his journey, what he had learned about Mongol history, as well as Mongol customs of the time. Many scholars have speculated that Carpine was undoubtedly on a spy mission because the largest portion of the report consists of detailed descriptions of how well prepared the Mongols were for war and suggestions of how the various military leaders might resist them. Carpine, as the first European at the time to have visited Mongolia and returned to talk about it, became somewhat of a celebrity upon returning to Europe. He gave what would be called today a lecture tour across the continent. 2 redactions of the Ystoria Mongalorum are known to exist, Carpine's own and another. An abridgment of the first redaction can be found in the Turin National Library. The Tartar Relation is an expanded version of the second redaction. The standard scholarly edition of Ystoria is by Anastasius Winget in Sinica Franciscana, Volume 1, pp. 3-130. Ystoria Mongalorum, like some other famous medieval itineraries, it shows an absence of the traveller's or author's egotism, and contains, even in the last chapter, scarcely any personal narrative. Giovanni was not only an old man when he went on this mission, but was, according to accidental evidence in the annals of his order, a fat and heavy man, insomuch that, contrary to Franciscan precedent, he rode a donkey between his preachings in Germany. In his narrative, however, he never complains. His book, as to personal and geographical detail, is inferior to one a few years later by a younger brother of the same order, William of Rubruquis, who was Louis IX's a most noteworthy envoy to the Mongols. In spite of these defects, and the credulity he shows in the Oriental tales, which is sometimes childishly absurd, Fray Giovanni's Ystoria is, in many ways, the chief literary memorial of European overland expansion before Marco Polo. Among his innovative recommendations was development of light cavalry to combat Mongol tactics. It first revealed the Mongol world to Catholic Christendom. The account of Tartar manners, customs and history is perhaps the best treatment of the subject by any Christian writer of the Middle Ages. He provided 4 lists of nations conquered by the Mongols, nations that had successfully resisted the Mongol princes, and witnesses to his narrative, including various Kiev merchants. All these catalogues, unrivaled in Western medieval literature, are of great historical value. Parts. Prologue. The prologue identifies the main audience of John of Plano-Carpine's account as all the faithful of Christ. The prologue explains that John of Plano-Carpine has been sent to the land of the Tartars by the Pope, so if by chance they made a sudden attack, they would not find the Christian people unprepared. John traveled, during a year and 4 months and more, with Friar Benedict the Pole, who was our companion in our tribulations and our Interpreter. Chapter 1. The land of the Tartars, its position, physical features and climate. Chapter 2. Of the persons, their clothes, their dwelling places, possessions and marriage. Chapter 3. Of the worship of God, those things which they consider to be sins, divinations and purifications, funeral rites, etc. Chapter 4. Of the character, good and bad, their customs, food, etc. Chapter 5. The beginning of the empire of the Tartars and the chief men, and the dominion exercised by the emperor and the princes. Chapter 6. Of war, the battle array, arms, their cunning in engagements, cruelty to captives, assault on fortifications, the bad faith with those who surrender to them, etc. Chapter 7. How they make peace, the names of the countries they have conquered, the tyranny they exercise over the inhabitants, and the countries which have manfully resisted them. Chapter 8. How to wage war against the Tartars, the intentions of the Tartars, arms and army organizations, how to meet their cunning in battle, the fortification of camps and cities, and what should be done with Tartar prisoners. Chapter 9. The countries through which we passed, the position, the witnesses we came across, and the court of the emperor of the Tartars and his princes. Appendix. The Tartar Relation, a manuscript of a variant of the Ystoria, written by Minorite Friar C. de Bridia, perhaps based on Joannes's lectures, appeared on the art market in the 1950s and was purchased for Yale University. This Tartar Relation describes Joannes's journey, including details that did not make it into his own written account. The manuscript is perhaps most known because it was bound with a manuscript of Vincent of Beauvais' popular encyclopedia Speculum Historiale and a spurious map on vellum, the notorious Vinland map. No such map is included with a second, older Historia Speculum manuscript volume found more recently. Another theory of the origin of Historia Tartarorum proposes that it was a record made by a Silesian friar from an oral account by Joannes' companion Benedict Pollack during final stages of the journey. C. de Bridia was ordered to put Benedict's account into writing by Fr. Boguslaw, the head of Franciscan order in Poland and Bohemia.